Hey everyone, so great to see you again. It's Judy from Coffee, Cookies, and Books, and what we're going to talk about today is a lot of books that I read in the month of June. We have a ton of books to talk about. They're all here. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over all of my challenges. So this is everything up to the end of June. And then we'll talk about the DNFs, because I did have a few DNFs, and then just quickly go over a couple of books that I didn't read, what I'm going to do with those, and then we'll get into the good stuff, which is all of this. Okay, so first, let's just quickly go over the challenges. I'm not going to go into too much detail with them, just wanted to kind of give you that. And then at the end, I'll give you the stats, okay, for everything I read in June, because I had a very, very busy reading month. Okay, so first one that I want to mention is my mystery thriller bingo challenge. Now, I actually completed that at the end of May. I can't remember if I mentioned it or not. That's why I just wanted to kind of bring it in here, because we're sort of ending off that the first 6 months of the year. But I did want to just do a line on that. And as you can see, I managed to get the line under the B's. So that challenge is complete, and I'm not going any further with that. I had not planned on doing a full card, just wanted to do a bingo line, and I did get it. So that challenge is done. Okay, so then the next challenge that I have done is the buzzword challenge. And for the buzzword challenge for June, I managed to pop in the Valencia Expat Club under the buzzword reading challenge for parts of a house. Okay, this was the closest I could come. I've gone through 6 months of it, but you can see there's like a storm drain, okay, and there are shutters. So there's different elements of homes as she walks through this path. And that was why I thought this actually looked like it worked really well for that one. Now for the cover challenge, I had a couple of different options, but what I ended up going with was the one that's called Damage, and that's under the August setting, and I put in the cover for Nemesis games, and that's because the cover is a spaceship firing on a city, and you can see the clear damage of the city and everything like that. I know that one of the other things that Damage could interpret would be like the rips, if a book looked like it had torn edges, burnt edges. But I kind of interpret it as there is a significant damage being done by the elements of the cover. So that was what I put in. Now, I do not know how the buzzword reading or cover challenge is going to go for June and July. July and August, because as you know, I'm doing my summer chaos with multiple TBRs and all my cozy books and everything like that. So I'm going to do my best, but I am not going to update this until the end of the summer. So it will be when I do my final update, which will probably be early September. And then I'll give an update on the cover challenge, and I'll be picking from the books that I read over the 2 months of July and August. So just so you know that that's how I'm basically going to run that one, because it's going to be just too hard to kind of do it monthly, because I'm not doing the reviews monthly. I'm going to be doing them as each round of picks are completed and I move on to the next round. So I'm not going to do the full update on this until we get to the final summer update. And in the final summer update, I'm going to review all the books I read over July and August, just a quick review on them, and we'll just have some fun with that. So I will try to fill this in then, because I just can't see me being able to fill it in before that. Okay, so that's that one. The next one is my Goodreads Choice Challenge that I created for myself, okay, which of course I popped it up. And for June, I did manage to complete multiple books. So I completed Silver Elite, which was under the Romantasy category. Under science fiction, I completed The Memory Collectors, and then under fantasy, I completed Brigands and Breadknives. So I managed to complete 3 more books. So I only have 7 left, and that's it. So this challenge will not be picking up again until September. So when I pull my September TBR, this will also be stuff that I'll be pulling for it as well. Okay, so that's it for that challenge. So I did actually complete everything I was supposed to, and she was really super happy about that. So the last one that I wanted to cover is my 2026 series challenge, and I had 4 books, and on it I completed all 4, which was Us Against You by Fredrik Backman, Nemesis Games by James S.A. Corey, Brigands and Breadknives by Travis Baldree, and then Flesh and Bones by Cate Reichs. All of those are part of the series that I started before the beginning of 2026. So they all were started 2025 or back further, and this is just a continuation of that. And I completed all 4 of them. So we're going to be reviewing them all today. Okay, so that's actually it for the challenges that I had. So now what I thought we would do is we would talk about basically my stats, okay? So technically I read, it says 16 books, 2 were DNFs, okay? So I actually read 14. And out of the 14, I had 5 5-star books, which I think is fantastic. So 1 4.5, 4 4 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 1 3-star, 1 2.5. Okay, so again, didn't have anything under 2.5. Typically, I don't, because I usually DNF. If it's going to hit the 1 and 2-star mark, they're basically books that I'm going to DNF, and that's just because I'm not feeling it. And you'll understand when we talk about the ones that I DNF'd this time around. So I thought I did pretty good. I read 5,435 pages, which I think is kind of fantastic. And doesn't have my average rating in here. I don't see it on here. I don't think it does, the average rating. No, it just kind of gives me just a general. But what it does is it gives me a breakdown on, I had 3 thrillers, 2 literary fiction, 2 romantasy, 2 science fiction, and 1 cozy. So I had a really good mix of books, just kind of a mishmash of everything. And I think maybe that's why I had such a great reading month with a lot of really good books, because it just really filled in beautifully everything that I wanted to read. So very happy with that. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to get into the books that I DNF'd. Okay, so technically I had 2 books that I DNF'd, and they were on my Love It or Lose It list. So what my Love It or Lose It list is, those are the books that I have put on that were either in past TBRs, or sometimes I pull for the Love It or Lose It list if I don't have anything left over. And these are books that either I'm going to read them and I like them, or if I DNF them, they're going to be unhauled. So the first one is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. I think I managed to get about 50, 60 pages, and it just wasn't for me at all. Might have been a little further, maybe. Might have been actually closer to 100. Just not so much her writing, but it was just the vibe of the book, the world that it was in. It just wasn't for me, okay? And I pretty much know that at times. it happens a lot with fantasy books. Certain elements of a fantasy book just don't work for me, and this is it. So in conjunction with that, I am also going to unhaul a Priory of the Orange Tree. In both cases, I got them both off Book Outlet, so I didn't pay a ton of money for them. But I read, because of how this came off, this is the prequel to this one. I read the first few chapters in this one, and it was like, yeah, no. So both are going to get unhauled. I will not be keeping either one of them. It's kind of a shame, but it is what it is. Now, I do have the Bone Season. I think I have the first 2 books. Again, got them off Book Outlet by Samantha Shannon. But it is an urban style, which typically usually works well for me. And it wasn't the writing, it was the world and everything like that. Just didn't like it. So, so that was that one. And then the other one that I DNF'd was The Woman They Could Not Silence by Cate Moore. And just, yeah, I didn't like this book at all. I think I got about 70, 80 pages in, and it just wasn't working for me. And a lot of it is the time frame that it was written in. I am not a historical fiction person. I should know better by now. But again, you know, I got it off Book Outlet, and I like to try it. It's a nonfiction, you know, and I thought it might work because it was nonfiction, because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. This one didn't. So I see no point in keeping it. It's going to go on my unhaul list, and I'll be listing all of these for sale at some point. So that's it for those. Okay, so getting those off. Now what we're going to talk about is the books that I didn't read that were picked from my TBR. Okay, so there were only 2 books that were part of my chosen TBR that I did not read, and that is Bewitched by Laura Thalassa, which is book 1 in the Bewitched series. Really wanted to get to it, just didn't have the time. The other one is Terror at the Gates by Scarlett Sinclair. Again, just another one, just wanted to get to it, didn't have the time. So both of these are going to go on my Love It or Lose It list, because I actually only have 2 books left on that list. So going to add these 2 on. Now those other 2 books are going to take priority over these 2, because they're the older ones that have been sitting on the list, and I just want to get them done. So we're going to be moving on from there. But I don't see any point in not putting these 2 on, because I do really want to read them and just didn't get the time. So the way the Love It or Lose It list works is I read them kind of chapter and bits together at the same time as I read my normal monthly. So sometimes they get read faster, especially if I have an audiobook and I can do an immersive style, because that's the only way I can kind of do audiobooks anyway. So if I do have that, I do find that sometimes they can go faster section by section. But yeah, so I read them kind of in conjunction with everything else that I'm reading. And these 2 are fantasies. So yeah, we'll give them a try. But that's what's going to happen with those. So they're not going to get unhauled or anything like that. And they're not going to go back in my pile. They're going to stay and they're going to get read. Okay, so that's it for that. Now we're actually going to get on to the good stuff, which is everything I read in the month of June. A lot of books to go through, 14 in total. So buckle in, because it's going to be a good one. Okay, so we've got 14 books to go through. I'm going to try to go through them as quick as I can, because this video will otherwise be extremely long, and I'm long-winded enough as it is. Of the 14 books, 3 of them are ebooks. They were ARCs. So I will mention that when we talk about each of those. The first one we're going to talk about is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. So this is the third book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, and I gave this one 3.5. So the first book, I think I gave 2 stars. I did not like the first book at all. Almost didn't continue on. Glad I continued on. Second book was actually my favorite. I gave the second book 5 stars. I actually loved the second book. And to be honest, I could have ended the story there, but I decided to continue on with this one, and I gave this one 3.5. Now, I cannot talk too much about what happens in this book because of the fact that it is a continuing story about Evangeline and Jack. But based on the first one, Evangeline is heartbroken in the first book because her love interest is going to marry somebody else. And so she approaches Jack, who is the Jack of Hearts, Prince of Hearts. I can't remember exactly what, but to suffice to say, he's cursed, but he agrees to help her. And the result of that is chaos, okay? The first book just felt childish and too fairy tale-ish for me, and I don't like fairy tale retellings. I actually just DNF'd one that everybody seems to really love, and I did not like it at all for the same reason. I don't like fairy tale retellings or fairy tale feeling style books. But I continued on to the second one, and that diminished considerably. Once you got into the second book, there were much higher stakes that affected Evangeline and Jax together. And then in this book, it then continues on with Apollo playing a much more significant role in this one. Apollo is the prince and the man that in the first book became important to Evangeline. So there was quite a bit of political intrigue and behind the scenes sort of creatures, and that just the last 2 books just were so much better. so much better. So I'd say it ended on a high note, even though it didn't give this the same as what I gave the second book, because obviously I liked the second book so much more, but it is what it is. It's still 3.5 was still perfectly acceptable to me. I'm like, do I want to keep the whole set? Because I do have the whole set, and I'm almost like really the only one I really liked was the second book. So I don't know if I would not reread the set. So I may offload and unhaul the whole set together, but we'll see how I feel. We'll see how I feel when I go to put this one back on my shelves. It's like, do I even want to bother, or I just want to take the whole set and let somebody else have the joy of reading it? We'll see. We'll see how I feel when the time comes. Okay. Next one that I read was The Memory Collectors by Dete Meserve, and I very much enjoyed this one. Gave it 4.5 stars. The only reason I gave it 4.5 stars is because it had very slow moments at certain parts of it. So you have these 4 people that go to this place that will allow them to travel back in time to a happy moment in their lives, or a joyful moment, or something along those lines. And these are 3 very damaged people. And they're damaged because of events that occurred that changed the direction of their lives very much. But what happens is one of the 4, during his time, because they get an hour, I think it is, when they go back. During his time, he doesn't follow the rules, okay? He makes one choice that then affects all 4 of them. And the thing is, the 4 of them are tied together by something that occurs. So how the whole story falls is you've got present day, past day, but the past day feels very present because it's actually happening to these people again. Okay. And then there are a couple of other characters that were part of the past of all four that play significant roles. And without going into too much detail on it, it is a hugely emotional story, very difficult for all four people, and how their lives converged. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I very much loved this book. Very close to being a 5-star for me. Just the very human feel that the author managed to give all four of these specific characters that just made them very easy to follow their journey, because they had their journeys in the present and then they had their journeys in the past, and they all meant something when they came together. I loved the book. The thing is, it had that emotional tie and it had very character-driven journey, but then it had a sci-fi feel to it, which is probably why I liked it as much as I did, because that is kind of my shtick, you know. Very much love something like that. So yeah, it actually sort of surprised me a little, because I didn't know if I was going to like this or not, because it really kind of felt more like a literary fiction book, but the element of what was happening to them was fantastic. This kind of had a little bit of a feel like The Merge, but I didn't care for The Merge. I gave it 2.5 stars. Was not one of my favorite books. This just had the character part of it down 100%. So that's The Memory Collectors by Dete Meserve. 100% would recommend it to anybody who likes a journey, because that's what this was for all the four main characters that were in it. Okay, so next book is Silver Elite by Dani Francis. I did give this 3.5 stars. Could have been 3 stars, okay. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it, and I liked it a little bit more at certain points, okay. So I very much liked the very beginning of it, and I really liked the end of it, but it was everything that happened in between. So what you have is you have a world where there were previously, it's like a dystopian style world, where there were previously people that were modified people. And these people could do things like telepathy, mind reading, things of that nature. And these people were all slaughtered, basically. Now, they still had mods, but they had them in positions that were controlled by the upper echelon, okay? So like the guy who led this group, the head guy, he had one that worked for him that was like a very powerful mod, but he controlled her. So there were certain elements of that, but I found that those things just didn't make sense to me. Just my opinion. I don't know if those things are going to be explained later on in the next book. I don't know if I'm going to even continue on, because I don't know that I have any desire to continue on. But let me start at the beginning. So you have Ren. She is your main character, and she is a mod, but she hides it. Okay, so she's kept it very, very well hidden. She's actually able to kind of hide her abilities. Even as you go through the book, outside of the one inciting incident where she was very much using mind control, her abilities are not all that, as far as you can tell. Okay? So I don't know if that's something that's going to, again, come in the second book. It was just that she never really lived up to what they said she was, or what the book said she was. Like, she's supposed to be some badass, and it was like, really? Because she felt like a typical 19, 20-year-old in many parts. So it just had a hard time feeling that she fit that mold that was there for her. That was kind of how I felt about it. Now, there were a lot of characters in the book that I really liked a lot. And, so what happened was there was an inciting incident. She was caught, but they couldn't blame her for anything because they couldn't prove it, okay, that she did this inciting incident. But because of who her uncle was, actually her guardian, who had been assassinated right at the beginning of the book, they basically force her to join their army, their military division. So she goes basically through a whole testing phase and everything like that. And it just felt very surface level. I mean, even thinking now, like I gave it 3.5 stars. I'm like, I think it was a 3. Really? Could have, yeah, like a 3. I just didn't love it. So I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to continue on with the series. Maybe. If I get maybe if I get the opportunity to buy the second book on Book Outlet, then I might very well pick up the second book, because, which is Broken Dove, is the second book in the series, because this was a little underwhelming for me. So anyway, that is Silver Elite by Dani Francis. Next book is Dete and Dacquoise by Cate Bellemore. And it was just a cozy mystery. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. What did I give it? I had 3 stars, which is not unusual for a cozy mystery. So this is about 2 sisters, Jo and Dottie, and they end up taking over their sister's tacky souvenir store / bakery in a small town, okay? But they have no idea how to bake anything. So they do end up hiring this girl on to be their baker, and then somebody ends up dying, and this girl is the prime suspect. So that's kind of where this all takes off, and I actually really liked it. I liked the 2 sisters quite a bit. I mean, enough that I would consider continuing on. I am going to check to see if it's available on KU, because I might just continue it there, because this one was only 3 stars. And then if I like that one more, then I might buy it and add on to the series, because I don't like the idea of spending money if it's only going to be a 3-star series all the way across the board. So yeah, that's that one. I thought it was really cute. I think it was pretty, like I said, pretty typical cozy mystery series, but still a lot of fun. I mean, all of the characters that were in it were fun. Leave it at that. Is what it is. Next one is Nouscraft, World 1 Zombie Apocalypse. I friggin' love this book. Okay, so this is kind of like a lit RPG style, so very much in the vein of Dungeon Crawler Carl, but it has more of a it's in the future, but it takes place in London, England. Okay, so you have a bit of an urban feel, but they're in a game. And the game is controlled by an AI, okay? And this AI is forcing them to accomplish certain things in order to end the game, okay? But of course, it doesn't end the game. Not really. So there are 3 books in the series, and I actually have book 2 and book 3 on my Kindle, okay? And so book 2 has been selected as part of my Kindle TBR, and I will be reading it 100%. Book 2 is available in print. These are self-published, okay? And the book 2 is available in print, and book 3 is not. So that was why I just popped them all into... I marked off this one section, which I'm going to read. So, of course, they would get into these situations, and they would have to figure out a way to, obviously, win whatever it was that they were looking for. These are called Mr. Nightmare's balls. A pair of enchanted yarn balls created during Grandma Nightmare's infamous Men 2 workshop, where her husband's frustration was magically infused into his practice materials. These perfectly round spheres vibrate with repressed male rage and lingering trauma of being told it's not that difficult 378 times in one afternoon. Wielding this item in the offhand grants the following effects. Mana regeneration increased by 200%. Wielding this item grants access to the following spell, I'm Weaving You, entangles target in yarn, forcing them to hallucinate a decades-long marriage filled with regret, despondence, and crushed dreams. Hallucination lasts 10 seconds. The psychological effects last a lifetime. That is a very good example of a lot of the... So it has a very comedic element, but it has some pretty serious situations as well. And the one main character is Mint, and she was on a flight. She had landed in London and got off and stopped in a coffee shop, I think, and that was where the game started for her. So basically her body is still in the coffee shop on the floor. In the coffee shop, okay? Yeah, it was so good. I can't even begin to explain it because there's so many elements to it. Now, I think for some people, they might find it a bit much. Now, I know that there is a full cast audio, at least for book 1. I don't know if there is for books 2 and 3 yet, but there is for book 1. I did not do the audio version of it, but I know it is available because I did find that out after I had finished reading it. And yeah, it was just so good. I can't wait to read the next 2. So you know, when you come off reading a book, and it's just been so good. This is the only downside, I think, of reading it in KU, because as you're going through it, the book, of course, has all of the formatting in it, which is very much like Dungeon Crawler Carl. The books have all of the formatting for, how they're winning their scores and everything that they come up against and how they can communicate with each other, all of that sort of thing. That's all formatted in here. I don't know how the formatting is going to come out in the Kindle, in the ebook, but we'll see, But I can't say enough about this. Oh my God, it was so good. Yeah, fantastic. Anyway, if you like Lit RPG and you like Dungeon Crawler Carl, you'll like that. I think you'll like this. I think. And the fact that it's called a zombie apocalypse actually has to do with the this world that they're in, okay? And what's happening to humans that are in that world with them. Now, keep in mind that the only people that are in that world are the people that are in London, England. Not everyone else in the world is affected by this. So that's an interesting point and something to consider. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So then the next one we're going to talk about is the Valencia Expat Club. So this was a NetGalley arc from Atria. I received it, and I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, 4 stars is what I gave it. On a spice level, I gave it a 1. And that was probably just because there were hints of it, but no actual sexual scenes. Okay? So you know it's occurring, but it's all kind of closed door. So that was how that kind of worked. Now, the main character is Dahlia, and Dahlia is going through a divorce. And as a result of her divorce, she decides to fly to Spain to meet up with a cousin that she hasn't seen since she was like, I think 10? I think it was 10, or might have been a little older than that, but right in around that age. And they reconnect on Facebook, and she decides to go to Spain. And Valencia is the area that she stays in. And it's just basically the story of her journey. And within that journey, she meets up with a fellow by the name of Liam, and she actually knew him from university. So he plays a role in this. So there is a love story element to it, but it is not just about that. It's about her ability to just love life again, okay? Because she really, I think, hated it quite a bit by the time the divorce was over with her husband. So, and there are elements where it kind of comes back to haunt her a little bit in here, but she deals with it, and it's a beautiful story. I really enjoyed it very much. I liked how it was written. I liked all the characters, particularly some of the Spanish characters were characters. Okay, yeah, it was a solid 4. So if you like that kind of book, it's somebody said it was compared to Eat, Pray, Love. I've never read that book, Eat, Pray, Love. Maybe Under the Tuscan Sun, a little bit. It has that general feel. It's definitely women's fiction, but it's current day. There's no historical element to it or anything like that. So I loved it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which was Flesh and Bones by Cate Reichs. So I think this is it's book 14 of 24 in the Temperance Brennan series. And so Temperance Brennan is a forensic anthropologist, and she works between Charlotte, North Carolina, and Montreal, Quebec. So in this one, she's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So she's called in when there are bones left, okay? Because she studies bones to be able to say how someone died. And there is a situation out by the Speedway, where the NASCAR Speedway, just off of that, where there is a body found in a steel drum. So it kind of jumps off from there, and it's actually really good. I actually really like this one. I gave it 4 stars. It's probably one of the better ones out of some of the last few that I've read. Like the very first one, Deja Dead. I think I gave that one 5 stars. I like that one so much. But it's been kind of hit and miss. I just went through, but I really, really liked this one. I just really liked all of the characters. It was very fast moving through it. Her books are usually only anywhere between 250 and 300 pages, so not super long. But now I'm so familiar with her character because there's a lot of character development as you have gone from book 1 to book 14, obviously. And still love it. We'll definitely be moving on to book 15. Can't remember what it's called, but I already have it in my series wheel because, you know, yeah, it's like I can't fault them. They're very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. So, yeah, can't wait to continue on with that series. So that was that one. Okay, so how many we got through so far? Okay, so next one is another ebook, and that is Getting Away with Murder by Shari Lapena. This was, again, another ARC that was provided by Penguin Random House through NetGalley, and I gave this one 2.5 stars. So this was actually my worst book, which I really hate to say that, but I just didn't care for this one. So the idea behind this one is you have this married couple, Ted and Jill, and they own this house that I think it's in Manhattan, and they've poured a lot of money and a lot of work into it. And Ted has basically been living off I think it's a trust fund he had. I mean, he works, but the trust fund is really what he's been doing. And he has been basically losing money. And so they get to a situation where they're going to lose a house, and they decide, which is right the very first chapter, they basically kill his brother. It's right in the very first chapter. Okay. And then it backs up. So the first chapter, they do the deed, and then it backs up, and it basically gives you all these excuses as to why they did the deed. And then it just carries on from there because they're being investigated. Now, basically what happened was they went out on his brother's sailboat, and the weather was sketchy, but his brother was kind of a risk taker anyway. And that is how they got away with it to a point, okay? Because they stayed out there and they circled, and then they called in the Coast Guard. They put markers down, but they basically let them drown first, okay? And so then it kind of picks up from where they're 2 months previous to where they decide they're going to do it. And then the rest of the book is just like them being investigated, but then all kinds of other people are brought in. And then, yeah, it was just a mess. To me, it was a mess. I liked, some people I know made comments about that didn't like that it opened up with the crime. I actually liked that. I thought it created a lot of suspense, but then it kind of went downhill from there. Okay, so that's how come I only gave it 2.5 stars, because I liked the very beginning of the book. I even liked how it jumped back and it made them look, but then it just felt very unsatisfying from, I guess, about the 30% mark onwards. So, yeah. And this was my first Shari Lapena book. So, but when I went, after I put my review in, and I went in and I read some of the comments on it, there were a lot of people that were saying it didn't feel like a Shari Lapena book. So I will not leave it at that. I will read another one of her books, because to me it's like, especially with thrillers, I find sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Depends on the situation that they're in and kind of where it goes from there. So this one may not work for me, but then one of her other books might. So I will try another one of her books. I have not allowed this to kind of put me off her books completely. But yeah, this was probably my worst read of the month, but still 2.5 stars. So it wasn't a complete write-off because of the fact that I liked that first 30%. Yeah. Next one is Nemesis Games from James S.A. Corey. I gave this 5 stars. This is my favorite. Which book is this? This is the 5th one in the Expanse series. And this was my favorite out of all of them. Okay? I freaking loved this one so much. So if you've ever heard of the Expanse series, so this is a situation where you have these 4 people and they have this ship, and they get into situations right from the beginning. It was a harrowing situation, and it's basically continued. There's Mars, there's Earth, there are the asteroid belts, there's all kinds of space stations, and there is a very unsettling situation amongst them all, potential war, all kinds of things. And now there's something else that's kind of popped up in book 4 that's created even more tension. And that's where this book comes in. Now, what I think what I really loved about this book, it finally gave an insight into the 4 people that run that ship and who they really are, because it separated them. This was the first book that ever did that. Like separated. Like basically they went in 4 different directions, because what happened was the Rocinante, which is their ship, was basically in dock, being repaired, and they couldn't do anything for quite some time because of the repairs that were being made to this particular ship. And that resulted in situations where they headed off in different directions, and it was hard for all of them. Now, Holden, who's the captain, Jim Holden, I think he felt a little bit abandoned because he was the only one left on is it Tycho station, where the ship was being fixed. He was the only one left there. But then he ended up in the mix because some major shit was going down. And, of course, he ended up in there with Fred, who's the head guy of Tycho Station. And he had to do some things with Fred and with the Rocinante. But then the other 3 were out there. And, of course, it all culminated with them coming together. It just was so good. I just can't even say enough. The whole series, I think there was only one book, and it might have been the last one, that I gave it 4.5. Okay. Because of one situation with that a certain element of that particular book just didn't feel the same as the rest. This one was just so freaking good. I loved it. A truly 6-star. This one, my favorite from the series. Did I say that enough? But how much I liked it? Maybe? Yeah. Okay. And it's really hard because you don't want to say too much. And I'm not saying too much about the elements of what drove these people apart and what actually brought them together, because it is very significant to the ongoing plot of how things are transpiring in this universe that's going on. It's pretty rough, though they end up back kind of in the fold together a little bit. Yeah. Crazy. It's crazy. So good. Oh my God, it was so good. Okay, enough of that. It was so good. Next one, Brigands and Breadknives by Travis Baldree. This was my favorite of the 3 books. Not kidding, 5 stars for this one. This is another 5-star. And I've heard a lot of people not like this one. I can't, have no idea why. And I don't know if it's because they expected this to happen in the town where Viv was. It did not. This had very little of Viv in it. This was about Fern, and Fern was the bookshop owner in Bookshops and Bone Dust. So she's from the 2nd book, her character, and this was just a fantastic journey, okay? But it was Fern's journey, not anybody else's. And I loved the high stakes in it. I loved this different situations as it went through and where Fern found herself, which was a bit of a mistake, but it was a journey of her person, not just a journey that was rife with all kinds of potential situations where she could die, okay? But it just, yeah, it was so good. I just really loved this one. I just loved everything about the world that they were in. Where it began with Fern making her way to where Viv was to open a bookshop there. There was a situation with Fern herself on why she did that. Okay, because the bookshop that she had in Bookshops and Bone Dust was her father's bookshop, and she had had it for a long time. And the decision to close that bookshop and move to where Viv was the decision that propelled her through this whole book and why she made that decision. So, yes, loved very, very much. I don't know where he's going to go with the series from there, though. Kind of curious. Not really 100% sure, you know? Yeah, because I don't know if there is another book in this series or if he just keeps the world but creates another offshoot kind of series from there. It'd be interesting to see what he would do with it from there. Because, yeah, it was just so good. You know, it was the very first one, which was Legends and Lattes, was my least favorite. And then Bookshops and Bone Dust, I love that. I think I gave that 4.5, 4.5, 5. I enjoyed this one. I liked more. This is a 5-star, true 5-star. Yeah, I just from beginning to end loved the whole book. Okay, next one is Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. And I think this was another 5-star. Yeah, another 5-star for me. I think I gave the first book 4 stars, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a 4-star read for me. 4.5. I liked it, but the problem with the first book, which I did not experience with this continuation of the story, is it took me a while to get used to his style of writing his chapters in such a way that all of the characters, there would be multiple viewpoints in one chapter. And they would jump around a little bit. The themes would still be there. So it took me about 30% of the book, and then I really got the hang of it. And of course, the story kind of jumped off at that point too, because I do find it was a little tiny bit slow in that first beginning part, because you're kind of being introduced to a lot of people, a lot of things a lot of moving parts, right? This book did not have that problem. So this book picks up, I guess it's just a few months after the results of what happened in the first book. But this is just an emotional journey from beginning to end. It's rough. There's no major thing that happens. There's just, well, there kind of is right at the very end, but there are a lot of up and down, up and down, up and down, because there are events that affect everyone in one way or another. And they do culminate in a climax at the end. There are so many emotional moments throughout the book. And yes, I love his writing. And, you know, you get so as you just really feel for all of these characters. I think there was only one character that I didn't feel enough for him because he wasn't in the book long enough to feel bad. Okay? But there was a lead up to him being in the book, but it just didn't feel, I didn't feel the tug. It was the feelings of everybody else, you know? Yeah, it was just, So, so good. I just, you wish you could say more, but you can't really without giving away everything that happens in book one. Okay? Because this really is about everything that happened in book one. The only thing about this one that maybe some people might be put off a little bit by, there's a lot of political maneuvering happening in this book behind the scenes. And it's kind of dirty political maneuvering, like a lot of dirty political maneuvering. And it's like you just want to jump in the book and like wring somebody's neck. I kind of felt that way a little bit. Yeah, so that is Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. So I do have the winners. That's gone on my wheel, and I'm hoping it comes up because I would like to finish reading the series. I think, though, that the winner is quite a few years ahead, like after this one finishes, whereas this one is the continuation almost right after Beartown. Next book is You Don't Want to Know by Lisa Jackson, and this is a psychological thriller. Okay, so this is about Ava Garrison and her husband Wyatt, and what happened. So where this book starts is at the point 2 years after the disappearance of her son. Okay, and I think, was he 2 at the time? He was young when he was disappeared from his bed, basically. And she has never been able to get over it. So he would be 4 by the time all this is starting to transpire. She's been in a mental institution, on drugs. But what's happening is something happens at the beginning of this book where she does something that they think she's all crazy, and she just says, no more pills. And that creates the situation where her mind is beginning to clear, and she's realizing things are not as they seem. And that's basically the whole story of the book. Okay. What did I give it? 4.5? 5 stars. Gave it 5 stars. It was so good. Now, it's really long. Okay. It was 562 pages. And I was a little bit worried that I'd be bored, because usually thrillers are not that long, like 400 pages, usually a top mark. So I thought I'd be a bit bored. And there is an abridged version of this that is closer to the 400-page mark. But I honestly wouldn't have wanted to lose anything that was in this book, because it all meant something. There were points throughout, and the things that were happening, like right at the beginning, you learned that she's seeing a hypnotist. That becomes significant, okay? You also know that the doctor that she's seeing, her husband is bringing to her, she doesn't trust for certain reasons. And so that's one of the reasons why she stops doing the medication she's being given by her husband. So, like, they lay out these pills for her, and she makes it look like she's taking them, but she flushes them all. So there's, like, a lot of that going on. And then there's another character that is kind of brought in to this, who is a potential love interest, because her and her husband, there's nothing there, really. And this guy is there, but he's not, I don't know how to describe it. He's like there, and there is a relationship developing between them. And I actually liked that. But there's something about him that you question as well. Which is, like, yeah. It was just so good. I'm really freaking surprised, because I did not expect to like it as much as I did. I thought, well, you know what? I'll give it a try. I bought it from Book Outlet when they had the 3 thrillers for $12. So this is like $4, you know. So it was actually worth the read, like 100% worth the read. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. So I would have, well, I enjoyed it enough that I actually picked up another Lisa Jackson off of the Book Outlet sale as well on the 3. It was 3 for $13, so it was $4.33 per book. So I did pick up another Lisa Jackson, one of her newer books, because this one's a good bit older. It was one of her older books, but I loved it. Yeah, it was fantastic. Oh my gosh. Okay. Next one I read was a Nick Elliott from St. Martin's Press, and it is Destination Funeral by Paige Harbison. And what did I give this one? I give this 4 stars. So I actually really liked this one. This was interesting. So you have these 4 people, and they all go back to they go to this small town because this Didion and Sammy's mother passes away. So they're all there for the funeral, okay? And the lawyer comes in and basically says, I'm going to take all your cell phones, all this stuff like this. You can't leave for the whole weekend. You have to stay because the house has been left to the 4 of you, and you have to decide what you're going to do with it. So she leaves. This is like a Saturday, okay? Now, the entire book is told from Didion's point of view. So it is the older sister of the mother who's passed away. She's damaged. She has issues. She has trust issues. It's like she doesn't even like these people. She doesn't want to be around them. So for her having to actually stay over the whole weekend really bothers her because she had planned to get back to New York. She is the chef at a fairly important restaurant in New York. She's head chef, and she just wants to get back. She doesn't want anything to do with this. She just wants to get this over with. Well, it doesn't work out that way. And then to complicate things even more, they wake up the next morning that they think is Sunday morning, and it's actually Saturday again. So they are now in a time loop, and the Saturdays just keep repeating. And, you see why, obviously, this keeps repeating, but it's just a very interesting journey. Now, the reason I gave it 4 stars is because I felt that the repetition became too much. And then I felt that the end part, which is when it ends and they wake up and it actually is Sunday, happened too fast. Okay? And maybe that's a bit of a spoiler, but you kind of know that that's going to happen eventually. I mean, you can kind of figure that out. It's just the journey to get there, right? That's the part that's the most important part. But it felt like it just kind of went on a bit too long. So that was my only criticism really with the book. I really liked it. I liked the characters. I mean, I think it would have been more helpful and more interesting if she'd had a point of view from all of the 4 characters. Because I felt that you would have got more of a feel for each of those 4 characters if you'd had their points of view. So that was probably the only thing that I felt was missing from the book. But otherwise, I thought it was fun. It was fun. And the characters in the town, like the other people in the town, they were a lot of fun too. Yeah, there were a lot of really interesting characters in the town. So it ended up being great, and I ended up really enjoying it very much. And the very last book that I read for the month was The Clinic by Cate Quinn. So this was another Book Outlet one, and I picked this up because I read one from her last year, The Bridesmaids, which was The Bridesmaid, which was her most recent book, and I loved that. I read it as an ARC, and I loved it so much I bought the physical copy, and I thought, well, let me try another one. So I picked up The Clinic, and I gave this 4 stars. This is a situation where Meg's sister Haley was at this clinic, which is a detox clinic, and she dies at this clinic. Okay. And they say she died from a heroin overdose. Meg doesn't believe it because, as far as she knew, Haley never did that. So she decides she's going to check herself into the clinic. And when I say Meg needs a detox, Meg needs a detox because she's an alcoholic and she's addicted to oxycodone. So she is the kind of person who needs this. So she injects herself in and puts herself in, but the thing is that she needs it herself too. And that is part of the story. So the story isn't just about her trying to find out what happened to her dead sister, but it's trying to find herself in the process. And I actually loved all of that. Okay. And that is actually one of the things I really liked from the other book I read of hers, The Bridesmaid. It wasn't just a journey about finding out the thrilling mystery part. It was her own personal journey in the book. And that was what I liked about it. Now, I will say that I felt that the ending was a little bit far-fetched. Okay? A certain part of it, a little bit far-fetched for me. And I did kind of feel a little like there were certain parts of it that were a bit dull at points. Like it just felt like the high stakes part didn't come in soon enough. So that was why I only gave it 4 stars. But otherwise, I really, really liked it. Quite a bit, you know? And I thought it was a really great way to end the month. 100%, you know? I mean, like I said, I had a really great reading month. Lots of 5 stars. And I read a little bit of everything. And yeah, I can't say enough about my reading. So that is it. That is everything I read. And now I got to put all those away. They have to go back on the shelves. Yeah. So I guess that's it for now. What else do I have? Is there anything else I had to talk to you about? I think there was only the other thing that I wanted to mention. Okay. Now, of course, I do have my subscribe button. I would very much love it if you could subscribe. But I have also opened up channel memberships. Now, I only have one level, and it's not overly expensive. I think it's $2.99 is what I set it at. I think it was $2.99. And I have some things listed in there that I'd like to do as things for just channel members. And one of the things was to create a book club. So it would be very specific to anybody who does join membership. Now, in the beginning, it would be more of discussion level, and we would just kind of do chit chats with, I would do live sessions where we could talk about what you'd like to have from me. So this is going to be over and above the regular Monday and Thursday videos that I do. Okay, so everything for now that goes on my channel membership will not be available to the regular subscribers, because it's just going to be, I think, more geared around like kind of the book club part of it. Now there might be other lives, like I might do reading sprints and that kind of thing. I don't know. We'll see. I have no idea where to go with this, and this is not like a priority or anything. But if I get, like, say, 5 or 6 subscribers, then it's a really good base to kind of work on it and see where we can go from there with it. So I did want to mention that. And the other thing I did want to mention is that all of the links that I have below, so I have my Instagram, I have my Pinterest, I think, on there. My Pinterest board was something that I used quite a bit in my photography. So there is a ton of stuff on there. And then I also have my links to Book of the Month and Artwork. Those are below. Yeah, and my Discord. So that's there too. So there's all kinds of stuff. Check it all out. I've really enjoyed my channel so far, and it's growing by leaps and bounds, and I just want to keep it going that way because it's been fantastic bringing all of this to you, and I want to keep doing that. Okay, so that's it for this one. I think that this is going up on a Monday. Yeah, I think it's going to be next Monday. So the 6th, so what's 7 days? So the 13th, is that the Monday? I mean, I might have the dates wrong, but I think it's the 13th. Okay, that's it. And I will see you in the next video.